welcome to Shooting It Straight. I'm Antonius, and this is a brand new gun channel. Now, I'll bet you're thinking that this is just another gun channel regurgitating the same old content of other channels, right? Well, you'd be wrong. I do something that the other channels will not do. I publish the facts and the truths that are sometimes in direct opposition to things that are currently taught or believed. Now, shortly after my retirement from law enforcement several years ago, I began to watch a lot of YouTube gun channels relating to defensive shooting and concealed carry and things of that nature. Since, after all, I did serve as a state certified police master firearms instructor for many years. And I was quite honestly shocked at what I saw. I simply could not believe the amount of questionable techniques coming from many of these instructors on the majority of those channels. Not all of them, but it seems like the majority of them, along with a significant amount of wrong information that was constantly being repeated. Now, because of these very concerns, I decided to create this channel. Now, the mission of my channel is to bring concealed carriers the actual truths and the facts relating to firearms and defensive shooting as a sort of, countermeasure to all of this ongoing misinformation and some short-sighted techniques that I consider to be potentially harmful. Now, some of my credentials are listed in the About section on my channel, if you're wondering about that. Now, you might see that some of my videos are controversial, since the facts often go against currently popular beliefs and teachings, and this video here will illustrate exactly that. The topic of this video is primarily aimed at the newer shooters, because I want them to know the facts before they are exposed to the tidal wave of blatant wrong information that's being spread around out there in the gun community, so that they can make intelligent decisions. Now, I must let you know that this video and some others that I have already posted are completely unedited. Now, I'm waiting right now to obtain the editing software and a laptop to support that software. So please, for now, excuse any long pauses, verbal flubs, which I'm prone to make, and things like that. I'm going to get the editing software, and the videos will be much better in the future, I promise. Just hang with me until then, though, please. Now, let's get on with today's topic. Most of you are probably somewhat familiar with the term stopping power, right? Now, today I want to focus on the still circulating false claim that stopping power is not a real thing, or that stopping power doesn't exist. You've heard that plenty of times, I'm sure. It's all over YouTube. No, what doesn't exist is the ability of these dumbasses to understand the very simple definition of stopping power. That definition has been around since the very early 1900s. So I struggle to understand why anyone with even a micron of intelligence would claim that it doesn't exist. Now, we've all heard the old claims that stopping power is a myth. We've heard that for many years now. And there is indeed a reason that certain people within the gun community have been trying to spread this false claim, right along with other such false claims as, well, caliber doesn't matter anyway. Or you might hear them say, well, all calibers are the same. Well, all that's horseshit. I call these caliber justification claims, since they're meant to somehow validate or justify their personal preference for small calibers. Folks, all of these claims are blatantly, scientifically, and ballistically false. They always have been. And again, that has been proven time and time again for well over 120 years now. Most of these delusional stopping power is a myth piss brains out there, continue to recite the same old tired and scripted out reason why stopping power just can't exist. And they do that by puking out the same old excuse they all give. Well, because a bullet can't pick a man up off of the ground and throw him across the room. Then they like to try to sound halfway intelligent by citing Newton's third law of motion, which of course just demonstrates their ignorance even more. Listen, and listen to me good here. Stopping power has nothing to do with Newton's third law of motion, and it never has. Stopping power does not have anything to do with a bullet's ability to throw people across a room, and it never has. Likewise, it has nothing to do with being able to knock a man flat on his back with one shot. All right? All of that has been intentionally fabricated. It's been made up. Stopping power has never meant any of those things. Yet these cognitively challenged morons of the gun community are still trying to re-educate the shooting populace. Stopping power very simply means an object having the power or ability to effectively stop the actions of either a human or an animal, or to immediately incapacitate. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Look, if the attacker stops his attack after being shot, whether shot 1 time or 9 times, then stopping power has taken place because the attack has stopped due to that shot. Right? It's common sense. It is not necessary that the attacker is sent flying across the room. It is not necessary that the shot lifts the attacker off of his feet and slams him to the floor. It is only necessary that the shot or shots effectively stops his attack. That is the only definition of stopping power. Now you may notice that this is usually only the fans of small caliber guns that are running around yelling that stopping power isn't a real thing. You ever notice that? Well, that's because the level of stopping power has always been tied to caliber, and it still is. And the fact is that some calibers are better at it than others, and they don't like that fact. Now, there may not be a huge difference between the calibers, but there is a difference, and some, under most circumstances, does a better job than others. Okay? It's always been that way, and it always will be that way. Stopping power was first termed in the very early 1900s while American soldiers were fighting in the Philippines during the Moro Rebellion. Now, at that time, the American soldiers were issued Colt 1892 revolvers loaded with 150 grain, 38 long Colts. And reports began pouring in from those soldiers that those 38 long Colt cartridges were failing to stop the charging native tribesmen, Muslims. They were Muslims, even at close distances. So the soldiers began to demand a pistol with more stopping power, as they termed it. That's their terms. We need something out here with more stopping power. All right? So that's the when, where, and why this term originated. Now, I have argued with experts that lamented, well, yeah, but the only reason those 38 long Colts didn't stop the native tribesmen was because the tribesmen used body bindings and body wrappings to keep them from bleeding out if shot. So it had nothing to do with stopping power. My brothers, the level of stupidity obviously knows no limits. The body wrapping ritual here has no bearing on anything. Bleeding out is bleeding out, and body bindings or body wrappings will not stop that. The blood does not have to actually leave the body in order for somebody to bleed out. Losing constant blood supply from any blood-bearing internal organ is all that needs to happen here. That's exactly how thousands of people die every single day, and it's called internal bleeding. Maybe you've heard of it. Body wrapping and body binding does not stop internal bleeding. Now, let's get back to those tribesmen. As an emergency response to the unexpectedly dismal performance of the .38 Long Colt, again, my expert claimed that it was the weak .38 Smith & Wesson, which it was not. The U.S. Army authorized soldiers to carry the Colt single-action Army revolver in .45 Long Colt. 45 Long Colt, not 38, 45, a step up, bigger. And issued those guns from reserved stocks that they had. In addition, Army Ordnance also purchased a number of 1902 .45 caliber revolvers. Now, these were an improved version of Colt's double-action Army revolver model 1878. And so the soldiers started using those instead. And guess what happened? Hey, those charging native tribesmen, wrapped tightly with body bindings, miraculously started going down immediately. But hey, stopping power is a myth, right? All calibers are the same, right? Look, stop drinking the Biden Kool-Aid. The proof has been out for over a century. This event is precisely what led John Browning to develop the infamous 45 ACP back in 1904, and it's precisely why the U.S. military adopted it. If stopping power doesn't exist and is not a real thing, and all calibers are the same, well then why didn't the military just stick with the old .38 Long Colt? And what caused those native tribesmen to suddenly begin to drop? Can you answer that? Yeah, I didn't think you could. Now look, I'm not going to get into any caliber debate in this video. I am more than happy to do that in a future video. But I just want to go ahead now and clear up a lot of mass confusion before the usual keyboard commando experts start giving false excuses for the 9mm popularity. Listen. The 9mm is an adequate caliber. I'm not debating that. But the FBI and the U.S. military did not go to the 9mm because they thought it was just as effective as the other calibers. That's what everybody likes to say. The 9mm fanboys like to say that. Well, that's not true. The typical 40 Smith & Wesson, the typical 45 ACP, the typical 357 SIG, they are all more effective than the typical 9mm. Now the FBI went to the 9mm because the new generation of field agent recruits or trainees could not control that hand cannon of a 40 Smith & Wesson good enough to qualify with it. You know, like all of the previous field agents were able to do for the previous 25 years. Suddenly they had a problem with it. And the FBI never kept this fact a secret. They didn't try to hide that. They freely admitted it. The U.S. military switched to the 9mm simply because it is a NATO caliber, which means it's easier access to the ammo all across the globe. The 45 ACP was never a NATO round. These are the true reasons for those switches. Now fellas, I've shown you that stopping power has in fact been proven time after time for over 120 years now. And it's still proven every day by militaries, police, and armed civilians all over the world. To contend that stopping power is a myth or a hoax or does not exist is the common sense and logic of a 5-year-old child. Stopping power is real. It always has been. And it's only ever been a myth in the minds of uneducated beta males. And it is still correlated to caliber. Alright? So, the next time you hear some dude with a high-pitched California Valley Girl voice say that stopping power doesn't exist, look, do yourself a favor. Stop that video, leave that channel, and never go back. Because there's some serious backwoods inbreeding taking place there somewhere. Alright boys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'm Antonius, and stay alert for more videos like this from Shooting It Straight. Ciao.